Welcome to this online event that marks the completion of our documentary series celebrating the history of seaside entertainment in the English coastal town of Cleethorpes. A very big thank you to all the people and organisations from the local community for their valuable contributions, and to the National Lottery Heritage Fund who commissioned this project. During the research for this series, so many fascinating stories emerged about the heritage of North East Lincolnshire, from its importance in the tradition of English folk music, unique coastal settlements of cultural significance, and local heroes like the injured railway worker who used his compensation to benefit the local community. We could not hope to explore these stories within the scope of this project, but look out for them in future programmes. In the meantime, sit back with your favourite beverage and enjoy our nostalgic journey through 3 centuries of seaside entertainment. Cheers! From the bathing bells of the 1930s, wartime concerts on the pier, music events of every kind, and high-tech spectaculars of the present day, concerts, carnivals, parades and festivals have been a much-loved feature of seaside towns like Cleethorpes.
We had a super tourism department in Cleethorpes, and they did so many things all the time, and literally they were doing throughout the summer 4 and 5 events a day they were doing. Some of the events, from the bonfires to the dance festivals to the sea sculptures they did on the beach. There was the Buster competition, there was the Miss Victoria Rose, there was Search for a Star. 1976 they started the first carnival, and as strange as they may have it, my children then, and my son who eventually went on to organise it, were in that first carnival parade. He was Darth Vader and my daughter was Little Bo Peep. So, you know, the tourism, Cleethorpes put it together, and after that it just went every year. So it ran from 1976 to 2016. 2007, me and the small committee of another 4 people took it over to do. In its heyday, we had about nearly 130 floats. It used to take literally 2 hours to pass you if you were standing there watching. That's how long it took to pass you. It started at Sydney Park in the annex, and we used to come down Ward Street and turn onto the main road. They got involved as well, because they used to have barbecues in the front. There'd be ghetto blasters going out as we went past. You know, it was a fun day for everybody. And I mean, as we came up Isaacs Hill, as you got to the top, there's an old people's home there, and they'd all be out in the wheelchairs and chairs out in the front with hats and waving at us. You know, so it sort of was infectious. Then we turned down Sea Road, went past the pier, all the way up to Brighton Slipway, and then back onto Kingsway, down Kingsway to the Leisure Centre, down Kings Road to the event arena, to Meridian Park. Went all that way. I think, you know, the first year I took over doing it, I was in and out the car, because I was in the lead car, and in and out, and backwards and forwards. I think I must have done about 20 miles. 2012, I simply couldn't find any funding. I ran it for 4 years, 5 years with struggling, you know, on a shoestring virtually. And then 2012, I said, I'm sorry, this is going to have to be our last year. And 3 weeks after that decision was made, Young's Seafood came on board and said, we'd like to get involved with you, and they funded us for the next 4 years. Well, the sky was the limit, you know. We were sort of tying bits of string together to make things work. We did everything, literally, from putting every bit of signage up from 5 o'clock in the morning to taking it down at 5 o'clock the next morning, mending the tins. We did everything. Young, no, you don't do that. They put a huge amount into it because they saw us giving back to the community, and they've got a huge workforce in Grimsby and Cleethorpes, so they really wanted to give back. We put it out as everybody come along, get involved, no matter you know, how daft you want to be, how silly, just come along. It didn't cost anything to enter. Just come and enjoy the day. And we had some fantastic floats. We really, people had come up with some wonderful ideas. You think, where on earth we got that from? I mean, one Gandhi Circus, when they came here, they always used to go into it, you know, and all the animals used to be there going along, and a lady used to come in, a long time ago, and the little doggy used to ride along on a little, she had a real dog, and he always used to ride along on this little, it'd be like a skateboard, but it was something she had on wheels that used to go along with that. You know, and the children just absolutely loved it, especially if it was going to be on one of the floats. And we had the caterpillar. He was massive, absolutely massive. It took 12 people to walk him along. And it was so colourful and so bright, you know, and so noisy, and all the kids did whistles.
The kids' faces, they just loved doing it. The children loved doing it.
We were involved in the beginning when we got started with the club.
Yeah, that's about 34 years ago. We once had 5 floats as one entry. Yeah, one with children on, one with American line dancing, one with ballroom dancing.
I mean, we got everybody dressed up as minions one year, and it was tremendous. I mean, to see, you know, a couple of hundred people dressed up as minions is a very odd sight.
A lot of people work so hard, you know, doing the floats and finding money and finding things to do things with. You know, everybody helped each other. They were very good at helping each other out and supporting each other very well. The local fancy dress shop, because it was a carnival parade and a lot was charity, she always let the costumes out at half price for everybody if they wanted it.
People used to come in and book the costumes, and we gave them discount half price. And then in the latter years we went in it ourselves. I drove a flowery car, and then we had lots of volunteers behind us walking along in mascots and all sorts, waving to everybody.
And towards the last 2 or 3 years, we had even a lorry company, a haulage company from Cleethorpes, and he came and he said, it's such a good event and you support the community so much. He said, I will give you my 13 lorries for the day, all scaffolded up, all insured, all with drivers. So anybody who needs a lorry, just tell them to get in touch with me and we'll supply everything for them. But that's how they are in North East Lincolnshire. If you're doing something, they'll come out and shout for you. It got to the stage though where it was literally taking me 9 months of every year to get it on the road. It grew, and of course your paperwork grows with it, you know, your risk assessments, etc. And everything was mapped out. But I am an old lady now, and I was getting to an age where I couldn't stand the stress of it anymore, and it was taking its toll on me and my family and my husband. So we just lost it. Well, it was important to the whole area, but it really was a good event for the community. It got a lot of small volunteer groups noticed because they'd have the T-shirts on saying what they represented. We collected money for charity.
It brought everybody out. It was a free event where all the families could come and watch it.
Those people who were on the floats or danced behind the floats
absolutely
loved doing
that's
it,
what,
you know, on the day. And the public, you know, giving their support and shouting encouragement and bringing oxygen to us and chocolate to keep us going, alcohol.
It showcased Cleethorpes because he brought people in from all over. I mean, Thorpe Park used to be full, the Beachcomber used to be full. They all used to be packed out for Carnival Day, and it helped local businesses. When you were going by and you saw the faces, it was like a sea change. And the very first year that I did it, as I came around from the High Street onto Alexander Road, I just walked around the corner and this big cheer went up, and it was just a sea of people. We used to get over 40,000 people to come and watch it. I just could not believe the amount of people that were standing there in front of me. I just couldn't take it in. I just was flabbergasted. But when you saw the faces, and you saw the faces of the children, you know, they were so excited. And the amount of people afterwards that say, thank you. And that's all you need, is that one little word. And then you think, oh, I am up for another year now.
The English county of Lincolnshire has a long history of traditional music, from songs celebrating the rural idyll to the salty sea shanties of the coastal plain. The 1960s saw a folk music revival led by American artists like Julie Felix, Paul Simon and Bob Dylan, English artists like Ralph McTell and Joan Armatrading, and bands like Fairport Convention and Steel Eye Span. Their lyrics resonated with the hippie generation and brought new musical influences to the English folk tradition. It's perhaps not surprising then that one of the most popular and longest running music events of its kind was born in the middle of this amazing period in musical history.
Well, the Folk Festival in Cleethorpes started in 1964 by the members of Grimsby Folk Song Club, which was mainly the Broadside Band. It was always put on the May Spring Bank Holiday weekend, so it was the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It started its life on the pier. It moved to the Winter Gardens and other venues in the town because the Winter Gardens had 3-4 rooms that could be used.
Elton John had played there, Black Sabbath had played there, and Joe Cocker, endless names, had played this venue. It was so iconic.
Anybody who is top of the folk scene has played at Cleethorpes Folk Festival. Barbara Dixon, Kate Rusby, John Bowden, Silly Wizard. Also, anybody who was top of the tree. We only got the best artists for Cleethorpes Folk Festival. There were so many festivals within the festival because you had the song side, you had the dance teams outside, you had all the locals people who just wanted to sing, like your equivalent of an open mic. So there was like 3 or 4 festivals within a festival. We also had a children's arm of the festival. It started out where children were disrupting the afternoon concert, so it developed into having a creche for them. But as the years progressed, we actually got funding to hold school days on the Friday and teach all the local children in the local schools folk arts, dancing, singing, playing. So there's a lot of teenagers and adults in the town now who will remember their days at Cleethorpes Folk Festival.
You can meet people there that they've got a wealth of knowledge, and that was as well really helpful for me because that got me interested in researching the history of folk music in Lincolnshire.
And then the dance side of it was huge because all the dance teams up and down the country wanted to come to Cleethorpes. So it was entertainment along the prom every afternoon. Well, I mean, we're talking of audiences of 800 plus just for a concert. So it was a large festival and people came from all over the country, and we had a lot of Europeans coming to it as well. It wasn't just a tiny little festival.
After a continuous run of over 40 years, 2006 saw the end of this wonderful celebration of folk-influenced music from around the world.
Well, like anything that's ongoing, you develop it. As I say, it started one room on the pier to a very international festival. We had people coming from all over the world to it, artists and festival goers. No, it's just sadly missed by all of us. So if you could recreate the Winter Gardens, please, we'll start running the festival again.
Although the tradition of folk music continues in Cleethorpes with events like the annual Folk and Cider Festival, nothing matches the scope, scale and popularity of the Cleethorpes Folk Festival in its heyday. Now its mix of traditional and contemporary folk music continues back where it started in the Grimsby Folk Club, waiting for the right time and place to burst out again with a festival of music that will enchant a whole new generation. No programme about famous festivals in Cleethorpes would be complete without exploring the history of the iconic venues that have hosted events in the town for over half a century. In this first of two programmes, we look at venues that have now disappeared.
Cleethorpes was part of a touring circuit. When bands played 35 dates around the UK, they all played Cleethorpes Winter Gardens. It was, you know, so it was a key venue, you know.
The Winter Gardens began life in 1934 as the Art Deco-styled Olympia Amusement Hall. Built with compensation received by railway worker John Eyre, it provided an ideal venue for events and festivals of all kinds. During the Second World War, the Olympia was used as a cookhouse and dining area for a Royal Artillery unit, before reopening in 1946 as the Winter Gardens, providing a centre for community activities and a major entertainment venue.
So bear in mind, it was more of a community centre. The tweeters, the flower arrangers, everything used the Winter Gardens because there were 2 or 3 rooms. You know, and live music was only one night a week that we did.
There'd be nobody in this town that hadn't been to the Winter Gardens for some occasion, be it a car boot sale or a christening or a funeral tea. Everybody in the town would have gone through the doors of the Winter Gardens at some stage.
Sporting events began in 1939 with boxing, which continued until the 1970s. Bouts often organised by local promoter Joe Frater, the first black boxing promoter in the country. The famous Melody Night, known locally as the Bags Ball, was popular with both locals and visitors seeking company, romance or just a good night out. Held every Wednesday evening, the tradition continued into the next century, live music changing to disco, responding to the tastes of a new generation. The explosion of popular music in the 1960s saw the Winter Gardens develop as a significant music venue, hosting major music festivals and some of the biggest names in the business, brought here by local music promoter Stephen Stanley.
Elton John had played there, Black Sabbath had played there, and Joe Cocker, endless names, had played this venue. It was so iconic. And everybody in this area, if it wasn't for the Winter Gardens, wouldn't have got into all this music. I wouldn't be sat here now talking about being a promoter if as a kid I hadn't gone to that venue. I started Solid Entertainments in 1979. I grew up in Grimsby, having been born in Cleethorpes, and used to go to every concert that was at Cleethorpes Winter Gardens from being 12, 13-year-old at school. That's how I got my musical education, and that's how I wanted to be a promoter, because what happened was the Winter Gardens, suddenly the band stopped coming, and we didn't know why. There was no explanation. So I rang the then manager of Cleethorpes Winter Gardens, a guy called Ian Galloway, and said, why are we not getting any bands at the Winter Gardens? He said, oh, the people who used to do it, they've gone away now. So I sort of jumped in and said, oh, I'll do it. And that was the famous words, yeah.
The Winter Gardens was host of the famous annual Cleethorpes Folk Festival for over 50 years.
Well, the Folk Festival in Cleethorpes started in 1964. It moved to the Winter Gardens because the Winter Gardens had 3-4 rooms that could be used. Anybody who is top of the folk scene has played at Cleethorpes Folk Festival. Barbara Dixon, Kate Rusby, John Bowden, Silly Wizard. Also, anybody who was top of the tree. We only got the best artists for Cleethorpes Folk Festival.
Jimmy Jackson was the owner of Cleethorpes Winter Gardens. He was at the venue when the Sex Pistols played there. And that's a big story because the Sex Pistols only played a handful of venues. And then the tour got cancelled, but they played the Winter Gardens. You know, I saw all the rock bands there, AC/DC, Queen, Sparks, Cockney Row, everybody played there. I could, you know, there's a whole programme about the history of the Winter Gardens.
As a centre for Northern Soul, it rivalled Wigan Casino and the Twisted Wheel. During the 1990s, it was home to the house music scene, drawing visitors to the monthly music festivals featuring Italian duo Fulvio Pernoli and DJs Ian Ossia and Nigel Lawson. Sporting heritage continued into the 90s when wrestling came to the Winter Gardens, often featuring local wrestler Stevie Knight. Charity football dinners organised by former Grimsby Town player Dave Boland saw Dennis Law, George Best and Sir Bobby Charlton among the many famous guests. Even 3 times Grand National winner Red Rum visited the Winter Gardens. Across the road from the Winter Gardens was another iconic Cleethorpes venue, the Café Danson.
I got a phone call from the Winter Gardens. He says, I understand you lost the Memorial Hall. Will you come and do a deal with me at the Café Danson? So we moved everything to the Café Danson, but we had all sorts of the top artists there, or we put them over at the Winter Gardens.
Also starting life in the 1930s as the Kingsway Pavilion, the Café Danson became a popular dance and music venue through the war years. A grand reopening in 1954, following a luxury refurbishment, saw 5 hours of dining and dancing, culminating in a cabaret by the then 18-year-old Julie Andrews. Like the Winter Gardens, the Café Danson was host to many famous 60s bands, including London-based rock band The Kinks. Demolished in 1966 to make way for a toilet block, the site now hosts the Kingsway Kiosk. The Winter Gardens continue to play host to a wide range of community activities and major music festivals until it too closed in 2007.
Overnight, the bulldozers moved in. So before anything could be done to stop the demolition, they demolished it. It didn't just stop big names coming to the area. When I was doing all the concerts at the Winter Gardens, there were at least ongoing a rota of 40 local bands, all good, all from 12 years old to 30-year-olds, all ages. When the Winter Gardens closed, all of a sudden there was nowhere for anyone to play, and the local music scene for a few years completely collapsed. It had gone, we'd lost the moment.
New venues are now hoping to regenerate the music scene in Cleethorpes. Thanks to the work of people like Steve Stanley at Solid Entertainments and Warren Jolly at Moon on the Water, the music scene in Cleethorpes is now enjoying a revival, once again attracting famous names and providing opportunities for local artists to perform. In part 2, we explore some of the historic entertainment venues in the town that have now been repurposed and reinvented to serve the changing needs of a new generation of locals and visitors to the town. Many of the iconic Cleethorpes venues that provided entertainment for both locals and visitors have now gone. Others have been repurposed to serve the community in new ways. Built in 1873 with money from the Sheffield, Manchester and Lincolnshire Railway Company, Cleethorpes Pier gave the influx of holidaymakers from northern textile and steel mills the chance to follow the ebbing tide on a 1,200-foot journey out across the sand. The addition of a pavilion in 1888 hosted dances, concerts and other entertainment. When the original pavilion was destroyed by fire in 1903, a new one replaced it nearer the shoreline. It included shops and cafeteria. Substantial refurbishment in 1968 added a 600-seat concert hall, cafe and bar, which hosted traditional summer shows, wrestling, live music, dance festivals and even coin and stamp fairs. The venue hosted some of the best music and top entertainers of the period. In 1985, the pavilion was converted into a nightclub, Pier 39, which became a popular party venue featuring top DJs and live bands.
Streets like a jungle, so call the police.
The new century saw a turbulent period for the pier with several changes in ownership and purpose, but it continued to be a centre for entertainment and community events, including the legendary Millennium Celebration Party on the Pier, hosted by Viking FM radio.
It was I think they used the pier itself as the stage and the audience were on the beach. The only problem was the tide came in.
The pier finally closed as an entertainment venue in 2015, but its latest reincarnation still provides another popular seaside attraction. The nearby Empire Theatre first opened in 1913 following conversion of the 19th century Alexander Hall. The theatre provided year-round entertainment from visiting repertory companies, talent contests, popular summer shows and winter pantomimes. During its heyday in the late 1940s and 50s, it attracted some of the country's greatest comedians, singers and entertainers. As television became more popular and the summer season shorter, audiences began to dwindle and the final curtain fell in 1960. First becoming a bingo hall, it is now, like the pier, another popular seaside attraction. The Marineland Zoo opened in 1966 on a site to the south of the resort. It boasted a wide range of aquatic and land-based animals, including lions, elephants, bears, penguins, dolphins, and even a killer whale called Calypso.
People come back time and time again to Pleasure Island. Is it the fantastic family fun and entertainment? Is it the unbeatable value of the biggest day out on the East Coast? Or is it the breathtaking boomerang?
When the zoo closed in 1977, the site was redeveloped into a family theme park, which opened in 1993.
Visit once and you'll come back.
Pleasure Island's 6 different zones, each with its own themed landscape, rides and shows, proved popular with both visitors and locals alike.
It was originally going to be Pleasurewood Hills in Cleethorpes, and it was going to be a Wild West themed and American, but the company that was doing that went bust, so they had to move on. Flamingo Land and Robert Gibb bought the park out completely. They brought in a new theming company, they redid all the buildings, and they brought in the Spain theme, the Old England theme, and rides like the Boomerang and the bigger things. All of that was put in by them. It's a very long history. For such a small place, it's such a very intricate and amazing history to research.
In the new century, it hosted family spectaculars like Planet Circus and music festivals featuring some of the top artists in blues, jazz and folk.
Yeah, we did Cleethorpes Rocks. We moved it around a bit, that we did it in Pleasure Island. So Pleasure Island theme park, we used the giant food hall there. And we had the Proclaimers on one year, that was tremendous. And we could do 2 stages because they had a McCormack's, which is a restaurant bar at the front of Pleasure Island, and the large food hall at the back, so we were able to utilise that. And that was the birth of the Cleethorpes Blues Festival.
The park changed hands in 2010 and the new owner, Melanie Wood, added a farm and petting zoo in 2013. But with dwindling visitor numbers, the park struggled to survive, finally closing for good in 2016. Now the ghosts of theme parks past haunt this eerie, derelict site as nature begins to reclaim the land.
You know, as part of the local history, I understand some people don't see it as really that influential. I think Pleasure Island was the reason that Cleethorpes was really put on the map.
In 2020, plans were unveiled by a private consortium to develop the site into a holiday village with hotel lodges and shops. The £57 million project will create 350 jobs, and this once abandoned site will once again attract visitors to this popular seaside resort. Our final programme celebrating carnivals, festivals and entertainment in the popular seaside town of Cleethorpes looks at events established since the turn of the century, heralding the changing scope and style of community events and visitor entertainment. In June each year, tens of thousands of people flock to this small seaside town to enjoy the spectacular display of marching bands, aeronautics, market stalls, exhibitions, fireworks and music that makes up the Armed Forces Day. First held in 2006, this nationwide event, held in towns and cities around the country, commemorates the men and women in the British Armed Forces. Each year, one venue is chosen to host the national celebrations. In 2016, Cleethorpes was honoured with a task. In a prestigious event attended by the Duke of Kent and Prime Minister David Cameron, the large crowd were entertained by the Red Arrows, Marine Commandos, Battle of Britain Memorial Flight and a spectacular firework display. In 2020, the festival was held online with virtual performances broadcast to audiences around the country. Armed Forces Day will return to its normal format when circumstances allow. The annual Birdhouse Family Festival, first held in 2016, features fantastic circus and street theatre from national touring performers, indoor theatre, interactive storytelling, creative workshops and nature activities. It makes the most of the resort's unique spaces and places while engaging families with artists and their work. In 2020, the festival theme was On the Beach, featuring archaeology adventures, children's art awards, storytelling and beach art.
So Life's a Beach is a birdhouse project, so it's for children and families, and it's about introducing children to nature. So this one in particular is focusing on Cleethorpes, helping children to learn more about the wildlife in Cleethorpes, around the boating lake and along the beach, things like that. So we've produced 2 videos that are sort of on location there that'll explain more about that. And then there's creative opportunities, so there'll be craft tutorials that are related to the wildlife in Cleethorpes. As well as that, we've got an artist in residence coming, James Brunt, who's been doing some really fantastic work on beaches. You know, people will need something to brighten their spirits. So that was the ambition.
Festival of the Sky, first held in 2019, heralds a new era of community carnivals with dazzling street parades, carnival arts and live music.
suppose my ethos around festivals is about accessibility. You know, I think for an event like this, we wanted to make it free, we wanted to make it public, we wanted to make it engaging. We all work so hard for the love of festivals and what they do for communities and how they uplift the spirit.
When you create something in an area like Cleethorpes, it means that the local population just enjoy living here a lot more.
The more we do things like this, I think it brings people here more, and I think it shows how good Cleethorpes really is, to be honest.
I think it's about time really Cleethorpes had somewhere like this, area had something like this, a bit of arts and a bit of culture, and you can see some of the kids really love it, and that's what I really liked.
And something like Festival of the Sky does nothing but attract people to the area. And in particular, that take place like this in September, not in the height of summer, but right at the end of the season when you might think things are starting to quieten down. Look at it. It's going to be enormous. This is going to be one of the biggest weekends in Cleethorpes.
We're already seeing the benefits to local businesses. You know, restaurants are stacked out, the retailers have gotten on board with the competition. So it's just a fantastic event, and to celebrate Cleethorpes and our wonderful beach.
And it becomes about investing locally. So I think it has been this amazing collaboration where we've brought in expertise that's kind of from outside the area, but we've also had amazing people to work with, and we've learned from them as well.
This is where we all invested our lives in. So to see something as fantastic as Festival of the Sky, it makes a big difference. Of course you want to be involved. We all want to be involved.
Spanning 3 centuries, festivals in Cleethorpes have celebrated every form of art and entertainment, from music and dance to arts and crafts and theatre and circus. This popular seaside resort continues to repurpose its venues and reinvent its entertainment to reflect the changing tastes and expectations of new generations.